by the way, good
Hey, good
morning. Good
morning.
morning.
It's sort of morning. Yeah, it's 9:30 here. That's still morning. So,
9:30. Okay.
yeah, my dogs wake me up a little early, so it feels a little bit like afternoon,
Oh,
but that's okay. Yeah.
that's cute. How have you been doing?
I'm doing okay. How have you been doing?
I'm a bit all over the place. I'm
Mhm.
preparing for vacation. I'm going to Italy, and I
Oh,
started
exciting.
and I started a new job in March. So
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of like getting the structure back
Oh,
in my
wow.
brain. So
They
that's
let
good.
you go on vacation after just starting a job so soon?
It's my third job because I've always been like replacing people.
Oh, I see. So
So I
it's
do have like some vacation days because
mhm.
it like in Belgium it
Oh,
counts it up in like a little pot
yeah.
of vacation days.
Cool. Cool. Accrued. Do they use that word there? Like accrued? That's what they do
I've
here.
never heard that.
Yeah, it's like you in the US, it's really awful. I mean, it's like you get
Yeah,
like 15 minutes of paid time off for every like whatever the equation is. So like it might be for
that's
every like
crazy.
it is crazy. And that
Oh my
paid
god.
time off is not like for vacation. It's like medical,
Mm-hmm.
like if you have a doctor's appointment or you're
Yeah.
sick,
Yeah.
like and there's variations on that depending on where you work.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like you get like an accrual rate. So
Oh
it's like
wow.
15 minutes equals 4 hours or whatever
That's
the rate
crazy.
is. I mean, there's
Every
some jobs,
time,
yeah,
yeah,
it's impossible. I
it
mean,
is.
yeah, I mean, it's impossible to like, you know,
Live.
right,
Every
right.
time I find out
So like if,
something new in the US, I'm like, oh,
yeah. So if you're
move
like,
to Europe.
this was like the thing, like, during COVID that like nobody talked about or something,
Hmm.
because it was like
Yeah.
the class issue of it, where it's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
people that are living like that, it's like, well, if you're sick for 2 weeks, like you're not taking any personal time off then that's paid,
Yeah.
for a year, you know,
Oh my
because like
God.
2 weeks is like, it takes a year or more at most jobs to accumulate or
That's
accrue,
crazy.
you
Like over
know.
here, if you're sick, you're sick. You go to the doctors, and I mean, we recently had like elections, so um, things have changed in that aspect for people
Mhm.
who are like long term sick.
Right.
Because at first there wasn't like a time limit on it,
Mhm.
but now it's like a time limit of a year. So a lot of people who had been not working but still getting some type of income, a lower
Uh-huh.
income,
Yeah.
all of a sudden they lost that income, and now they either have to go back to work or die in a hole again.
Well, right. I mean, here it's like if you're sick longer, you have to apply for what's called FMLA, which means
Hmm.
like it's like a paid medical leave, and you get
Yeah.
the same thing, like a percentage, but not full pay, but they'll hold your job for you, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm fortunate that like I'm an independent contractor essentially,
Yeah.
so I'm not working for a company, like
Hmm.
maybe I used to, and Uh, but at the same time, when you're an independent contractor, then if you're sick, like you don't get
Hmm.
anything. That's like part of the
Hmm.
deal. You don't.
Okay.
You know, but yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, no, crazy. It's crazy. Like
It is.
anyways, that's what's. I mean, America's a very crazy,
Yeah.
large.
I,
It's a
I I
very
have a few
big
friends in
place.
America, so
Oh, you
I'm
do? Yeah,
well in the US, so I'm
yeah.
trying to be a bit in the loop.
Where do they live?
Well, one of them lives or is from Texas,
Oh,
actually.
really? Okay.
They recently moved, but I'm not sure where.
Okay. Texas is a big state. I mean, like my
Yeah, I
my
don't know if
my
it's still in the state
uh-huh.
or a different state. It
Okay.
was still near enough, but in America, if something is near, it's like the size of my entire country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, my mom and sister live in Ohio, and they'll ask me like, "Did you get snow today?" And I'm like, "That's in Dallas. That's like,
Yeah.
6 hours away from me,
Yeah.
but yeah, I live closer to San Antonio. In Austin's like an hour and a half, hour and 45
Mm.
minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes longer depending on traffic. Houston's like
Mm-hmm.
4 hours away. Dallas is like
Mm-hmm.
five, and Dallas is like the difference between Dallas and San Antonio is like the difference between like Germany and
Mm-hmm.
France. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing in common.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
if I drive 4 hours, I will be in France, so it does make
mm,
sense.
right. Yeah, Dallas is like another world from San Antonio. Like
Mm-hmm.
culturally, it's completely different.
Mm.
Financially, it's very different. I'm not a Texan, so I'm sure a real Texan has different opinions on that, but
Mm-hmm.
probably stronger opinions, like most things
Oh, okay.
Texans. But yeah, it's so I'm closer to San Antonio, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty great as far as big cities go. It's a pretty awesome big city, I think. So,
The nice thing about Belgium is you're so close to everything
uh huh,
because it's so small. Because like
right.
if I want to go to Antwerp, I just hop on a train and I'm there in like less than 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm so jealous of that. I mean, I guess like that would be like living on the East Coast for the
Mm.
US or something. Like from here, like it's impossible for me to get out of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Unless
it's
you have a car
no, I mean I
or
have a car. It would just take me like 8 hours, to get, uh,
okay.
you know, I mean, I could get to Arkansas. I mean, a lot of people don't go to Arkansas. Uh, I mean, I could go to New Mexico, that would take like 8
Mm.
hours.
Oh
West
wow.
Texas takes
Okay.
me like 6 hours to drive out to if I were to drive to, like, Marfa or Big Bend or something
Damn.
like that, that's 6 hours. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're still in Texas
Yeah. Yeah, I
after
live
so
really close to the border, so for me it's like I go on a walk and I'm in the Netherlands.
yeah, that's exciting.
So
Yeah,
that's fun.
yeah. Yeah,
And Germany as well.
the East Coast, you can take a train and you can get, from
Mm.
Philadelphia to New Have you been to the US?
Hmm. No,
Oh,
no.
you're not
The
missing it.
the furthest I've been is Denmark.
Okay, yeah.
And then on Monday when I'm going to Italy is gonna be the first time I'm ever gonna be in an airplane.
Oh, really?
So,
Well,
we're
that's
taking
exciting.
big steps on Monday.
Yes.
I'm not scared at all.
Right, right. I'm sure it'll be okay, but I understand. Yeah,
Mm,
that kind of stuff is
yeah.
travel in general is, anxiety producing, I think. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a fear of heights
Okay.
and also just the idea that you're hanging in the air.
Right.
But I'm
No,
trying to not like
yeah.
hyper fixate on it. I'm telling like my autistic brain to be like, think of birds and all the pizza you're gonna be eating.
Yes. Yeah, I mean flying is scary conceptually, I think, but that's because
Mm-hmm.
we don't we unless you're like an aviation engineer, you don't really understand it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it is safer. I mean, it's definitely safer than like me
True.
driving from here to Austin on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
That is
you know.
true.
So, um, that's the good part of it. I think it's like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of stuff like that. It's like the lack of control,
Yeah, it's
I mean,
like, and it's like the first time I'm doing it, so probably after that I'm gonna be like, oh my god, that's so much fun! Can't wait to go
yeah.
back.
Yeah, just drink lots of water.
Okay,
I think it's important to stay hydrated on a plane,
okay.
because it dehydrates you because of the
Mm-hmm.
elevation
Mm.
in the air. So
Ah, okay.
drinking, a lot of people that have bad experiences flying, I think it's because they're like not hydrated.
Okay.
So
I
anyway,
do bring water everywhere I go,
yeah,
so we'll be
yeah,
good. And
good.
it's not a long flight to Italy anyway. It's not like when you're on tour with Bill and you're coming over here and you're in the plane for over 10 hours.
Yeah, no, I mean, in the flight, the flight over there is really rough. Actually, well, it was more rough this last time because I flew to Dallas, and then there was like
Mm.
delays, and I think the way to do it is the way I did it the first time I met you, which is like I flew from here to like Philadelphia or New York, and then
Mhm.
I had a layover there for 2 hours, and then I got on. So that
Yeah.
way there's, like, a break. Otherwise, like, I fly from here to Dallas,
Mhm.
which is only, like, 40-minute flight, and then
Mhm.
Dallas is a really long flight to
Mhm. Mhm.
Europe, but
Yeah.
if you're going in the right direction to begin with, and then you take a break,
Mhm.
you can kinda
Okay.
reset a little bit, I think, so I don't yeah, it's not my favorite thing in the world to do,
Mhm.
for sure. Yeah,
No, I can see why.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Should we get into
Sure,
the
sure.
questions I've
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
lovingly prepared?
Okay, sure.
Also, first of all, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for
As you
having
can
me.
see, this is just a one-man production. It's just me in my silly little bedroom writing silly little music and movie reviews.
That's good, that's great, I think.
So
Yeah.
yeah, this is like a dream come true because you're like the second person I've ever interviewed
Oh, good. Okay. Well
and the first musician.
oh, it is? Okay, cool,
Yes.
cool.
Um, so yeah, after like the second time I saw you open for a bill, which
Mhm.
was a few months after Cardiac Country came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, yeah.
Um, I've wanted to write this piece since then because hearing those songs live,
Uh-huh.
they like transformed in my brain because I'd already listened to the album before that, and I really loved it. And then hearing it in a live setting, I was like, my life has been changed.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope for the better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a little anecdote we can get into later
Okay.
if you need some more compliments.
Oh, always, always. I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I would love to go back to the beginning a little and just
Okay.
hear about the songwriting process, like how you started writing this album. Was there like a particular catalyst for it, maybe?
Um, the catalyst was s the catalyst really was my friend Joe Trevino, who's got the studio in San Antonio, um, wanted to try out a new microphone. And I was already, like, working on my other record, New Shadows, and I was pretty in it, in terms of,
Mm,
like, the production of it. So since I was in the production of it, the songs were already written for that record, and I wasn't really thinking about making a new record, but Joe had offered to put a session together with a drummer that I really liked and a bass player that I really liked, and was offering me free studio time. So the catalyst was just like, oh, I need to write some new songs. And it just sort of opened the floodgates by, normally I'm like always working on songs is just a way to practice guitar and kill time.
mm-hmm,
Um, and it's just something that I do every day. And sometimes I get something, sometimes I don't. But this, I really sat down and wrote songs to record. And in a lot of ways, it was less self-conscious than I normally am because I didn't
mm-hmm,
necessarily have a theme or it wasn't like I wanted to make a record because I was already neck deep in another one. Um, and I wanted songs that I knew were gonna the only thing was I wanted songs that were gonna work well with just me playing acoustic guitar with a drummer and a bass player. And, um, live in a room um, and so I wrote them very quickly. Um, and the only thing I knew that I wanted to write songs that I really love a lot of abstract and impressionistic songwriting, but I also like a lot of songwriting where you can if somebody says, "What's that song about?" You can say,
mm-hmm,
"That song's about the X, Y, or Z." But there's still
mm-hmm.
mystery to it, it's not
Yeah.
totally revealed, but you can say,
Mm-hmm,
like, "I love Tom T. Hall." I love, John Prine. I love Iris DeMent. Songwriters like that you can say that song's about something. It's
mm-hmm,
not just words on a page. It's not. It's saying something. And so
Mm-hmm.
I went into it with that framework, but then all the songs came out very quickly in like 2 months, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I was trying to meet like a deadline to record something. So that was the only sort of behind the scenes thing with the songs,
Mm-hmm.
before I started. Yeah. And so that was recorded like uh, a few months before before New Shadows came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was
Mm-hmm.
recorded like maybe 6 months before New Shadows came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't look up how much time was in between like New Shadows and Cardiac Country then.
I think in terms of release dates, like mm, maybe a year or
Mm.
something like that, maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
bit longer. But really, and then what happened was I recorded Cardiac Country. I mean, it wasn't called Cardiac Country then, and like, and I was pretty much done with New Shadows, and then 3 months later, 4 months later, I had like a yearly physical, and
Mm-hmm.
it revealed that I had this like regurgitating heart valve,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then that basically everything in my life kind of hit pause because it was like
Mm-hmm.
it sort of snowballed. Like there was like when I got my diagnosis, I wasn't in emergent need. It was like you have to get this done sometime. You have to get this surgery done sometime in the next couple years, and
Mm-hmm.
let's do another test. And then because it's the U.S. medical system, everything takes forever. So a month and a half later, I get another test, and like it's probably going to be sooner than 2 years. And then
Mm-hmm.
I get another test, and they're like, and long story short, it's like, how soon can you get here?
Oh my god.
So you know, uh, at that point in time, New Shadows was about to come out. Like it
Mm-hmm.
had already been pressed, and I was trying to do it myself through a label. My friend Corey, that runs Three Lobe Recordings Records, was helping me put it out. Um, and right before it came out, I had my surgery. So, and then right after that, my dad died, and so everything was kind of on hold.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, thanks. It was a really, really trying time. So then,
Yeah, I can
by the
imagine.
time uh, New Shadows came out, I did a little bit of touring around then,
Mm-hmm.
and then I sort of revisited Cardiac Country,
Mm-hmm.
probably a year after I recorded the basic tracks, and kind of thought like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how am I gonna finish this off?
Mm-hmm.
What do these songs mean? And then I started doing more. There were some overdubs that were already done with like organ and stuff, but pedal steel. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna mix the record, and
Mm-hmm.
then by the time you mix a record and master a record, then it's like 9 months after that till it gets manufactured and comes out. So there's always a big gap between the time somebody gets to hear it and you've
Mm-hmm.
finished it essentially. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the long story, I guess. Maybe it's the short story. I'm not sure.
No, thank you for sharing. I read somewhere that like not all of the songs on that record were written before you became aware of like your diagnosis.
Yeah, there's only one that I wrote after
Oh,
my
only
diagnosis.
one.
Yeah,
But
the last one,
yeah,
Old Hat. And like a song like Morning Locket, like I mean, I never play because even though I really like that song because it was
me
just
too.
thank you. It was just so dark,
Yeah.
like
It's one of my favorites
it's
actually.
it's so it's such a dark,
Hmm.
strange
Yeah.
song, in so many ways that, you know, when I mean, it's very goth, obviously, in a lot of ways, like a lot of people, I don't even know if they know what a morning locket is, but it's like, a locket, it used to be from like, I guess maybe 100 years ago now,
Mhm.
70 years ago, like little lockets, and people would put the hair of somebody that passed away in their locket as
Mhm.
a keepsake or a memory, and they would
Yeah.
wear somebody that they loved lock of hair in a locket that was clasped. So, the general public, when you're wearing it, can't see it, but you know that you have this person's lock of
Mhm.
hair in it. And it's a process song about that, and it sort of imagines then, the person that you're with or love, that, then you're telling them, you know, we bought this locket at a charity shop, and now,
Mhm.
clip a piece of my hair and put it in there for when I'm gone.
Mhm.
Um, but that was written before my diagnosis.
That's
Old
crazy.
Hat
I
was,
love when that happens though.
yeah, no, I know. I mean, I wish, I wish it hadn't been so prophetic, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but the
Like
old hat,
from an artistic standpoint,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah. No, I know, and I, so I really like that. I really like that song, and I really like the melody, and I like the chord changes, and it's a song I'm really happy with. But
Mhm.
Old Hat was the only one that I wrote after I got my diagnosis, and part of that was like, um, and at that point in time too, when I recorded it, I was symptomatic, in terms of my valves. Like
Mhm.
when I got my diagnosis, just because of my age, I didn't know what my symptoms were. I didn't
Mhm.
recognize my symptoms as um, relating to something cardiovascular. I
Mhm.
I thought it was stress. I thought I was getting older, like I was a little out of breath at times, but I thought it was just because I was
Mhm.
stressed out or
Mhm.
anxious about things or allergies, because of pollen and cedar allergies around here. Um,
Mhm.
but by the time I wrote and recorded Old Hat, I was definitely short of breath, which in
Mhm.
part is why the song is so short, was
Yeah.
because like I was freaked out, and I was like, I'm going to write a short, and it was very self conscious, I should say. Like, it
Mhm.
was like, I'm going to write a short song about, because I'm short of breath, and I'm going to write and record one more song, and it's going to be solo acoustic, because if I don't survive my surgery, I want to have a 10-song record. Like,
Damn. That's a crazy thought to
I
have.
did not want a 9
Yeah.
song album. And I
Yeah.
was like, because when I recorded the record with the other 9 songs, I hadn't planned on making a record, So,
Mhm.
um
Did you feel like it wasn't finished yet
yes.
or
Yeah,
okay.
I felt like it was not finished. I felt like I didn't have the last song. You know, I
Mhm.
felt like I didn't have a final song to sort of bookend it with Long Distance
Mhm.
Runner. And
Mhm.
so I wrote a song about death, is sort of like, this thing that was no longer abstract in my life,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And, I think a lot of people that are thoughtful and think about things and are prone to depression, anxiety, think about death at a young age. But it's like,
Yeah.
you listen to the first, yeah, right? It's like, um, you have these sort of like existential thoughts, like Bob Dylan's first
Mhm.
record when he was in his, 20 or whatever, like is,
Mhm.
singing about death. Well, he doesn't know anything. You don't know anything about death, even if you lose
Mhm.
people, it's still abstract. But so at this point in time, I was writing about it from, I mean, I was in a very bad mental health state when I
Mhm.
wrote and recorded it. I was, uh, d- some people go into surgeries, and they're just like, oh, I believe in the doctors, and I'm feeling good
Mhm.
about this, and I know I'm going to be better. And I was not like that. I mean, I was, uh,
Mhm.
not doing very well. And so, I was terrified. Um,
Mhm.
so when I wrote and recorded that, it was like I went to the studio. It was like, I wrote it in 15 minutes and I recorded it in, you know, 20 minutes or whatever. You know, it's a
Damn.
2-minute song. So
Mm-hmm.
I played it a couple times and, you know, took the last take, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had, you know, my surgery a month or so later, you know.
Oh my god, just a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. Crazy.
Damn.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was crazy to
Mm-hmm.
me. It probably wasn't crazy to anybody else, but
Mm-hmm. I feel like I don't know if you do a lot of reflecting because I sadly do.
mhm.
But do you ever like reflect back on that time and think think like, oh, this album was something like I had to make, or it was just, or it was just a coincidence that everything fell into place like
Yeah.
that? Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, not very long though,
Hmm.
I gotta
That's
say.
maybe for the better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a uh I guess I have a lot of friends that are very kind of woo-woo in that way. I'm not that way, you know, like in
Hmm.
general. So I do think about that, but I think about it in a way that's like, huh, and then I move on.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know,
like you don't
I,
necessarily believe in something, but you just notice
yes,
that it
yeah.
happens.
I think it's just part of my agnosticism,
Mm.
you know, in general, where it's
Hmm.
like I'm very open to those things being
Hmm.
true, but I'm not gonna. I
Hmm.
don't apply meaning to them.
Hmm.
You know, I'm just like
Hmm.
maybe, you know,
I
maybe,
I
maybe,
can, I can
you
relate to
know,
that. Yeah.
maybe it's coincidence. You
Hmm.
know, it's like, I mean, I think that if you are engaged in things that are artistic in a way that's like has they have meaning and depth that's both like a depth that whether it is or not but aspires to be like emotional and intelligence and you know both sides of your brain or both sides of your heart or spirit and you're trying to create things from both of those worlds, then it's natural that you're going to be able to apply them to complex things in your life, you know, because you're intentionally, oops, that's my alarm to, um, so, uh, but yeah, it definitely like creeped me out. And I'm like, because I
Hmm.
listened back to it, I'm like, man, I've never sang about things that are specifically heart, cardiac
Hmm.
related. And I sort of had, you know, even a song like Frozen Hearts, which is like not about a heart, it's about more like virtue signaling or like, you know, sincerity
Hmm.
or, you know, but then other stuff was very, the imagery was not
Hmm.
similar to the things that I was going through in a way that had never been before.
Hmm.
So it was like, I mean, I have a couple friends that like love me and love my music that will not listen to that record because it feels
Hmm.
too intense
Yeah.
for them, you
Yeah.
know, you know. And then I've got other friends that are just like, "Fuck Jerry." That's like, you know, it's like, you know, so um but uh you know, I'm happy, you know, I really like that record, but it's like something
Hmm.
I try not to self-analyze it too much.
Hmm.
Even I think
Hmm.
most songwriters, they go one way or the other. It's like you don't wanna think
Yeah.
about it too much. It's like it's stuff that
Hmm.
comes out of you,
Hmm.
you know, and I mean, I definitely have theories on like, you know, songwriting. I don't think it's a mystery
Hmm.
necessarily, but I also am not somebody that thinks it should be a craft either,
Hmm.
you know, like
Hmm.
I think it's a combination of things, you know, I think it's
Yeah.
like a everything that you've collected inside you to that point
Hmm.
in time, so to speak. So
Hmm. So the album is almost a year old,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of the opinion that, you know, songs are alive and they can change over time, which is a very abstract thought. Um, have you ever witnessed something like that? Or is that something that you notice in music that you listen to, that you like, that songs can change over time for yourself or vice versa?
Yeah, they definitely change over time for me as a fan, of other people's music. I mean, um, I'm at that age where like I still listen to a lot of new things, but I listen to a lot of things that I've loved my entire
Mm-hmm.
life, because it's like comfort food. Um, and I'll be playing something in the house, and Eve will say, she's like, I don't know if you would like this if you heard it for the first time today, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's probably a lot of truth to that, but I still sometimes the stuff that I'll notice new things about it, or I'll have a new idea about it.
Mm-hmm.
I always listened to music, even as a kid and as a young adult, especially. I listened to music that was made by people older than me. I was never really into music, by peers.
Mm-hmm.
And not peers is the wrong word. I liked music by my friends, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily gravitate towards music being made by people around my same age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in my early 20s, like I was listening to music made by people that were my age now, and so listening to music when you're in your late teens or early 20s by people in their late 40s, early 50s, you're hearing it differently
Mm-hmm.
than when you're in your late 40s, early 50s. Like, it's um so and that was true. Even like I would listen to older music. I mean, even in my early 20s, my favorite Bob Dylan records were the ones when he was in his 50s, and
Mm-hmm.
um and when I was a teenager, I liked music from different time periods, which then was more unusual, I think, than it is now, because people have the history of the world's music in their pocket and on
Yeah.
the internet. You can access all those old records very easily now, which is awesome. But at the time, like I was just lit, and so now I hear those things from a different historical perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, when I was listening to records from like the '60s when I was in high school, the '60s seemed you know, uh, like you needed a time machine to get
Mm-hmm.
to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
now 20 years ago seems like a blink of an eye to me because of my
Mm-hmm.
age. I mean, and young and younger musicians I meet now are like, it's like what I listened to in college is classic rock.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think that's just, and I guess, so in terms of listening to music differently, it's just, that's just what happens when you get old. I think,
Mm-hmm.
is like, you're bound, like you change so much, and
Mm-hmm.
you people give, I think there's a big difference between sentimentality
Mm-hmm.
and nostalgia, or wistfulness.
But have you ever noticed that, like with your own music,
Yeah,
or do you not like really think
sometimes.
about that?
Well, I guess I might, like, I mean, like, I'll be with Eve, and like, I'll hear one of my songs or something like that, like if we're in a car or something like that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's like we don't have a car anymore with the CD player, which is a bummer.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get a streaming service, and so like I'll hear a song of mine pop up on an algorithm thing, and I'll be like, oh, that's a good
Mm-hmm.
song.
Mm-hmm.
And I say it, she's like, don't say your own song is good, but I mean it as like, it's like, who wrote that? It just seems like a very
Mm-hmm.
different person, because it's,
Person,
yeah.
yeah.
And or it's like, oh
What about,
wow, I
yeah.
forgot, like I forgot I felt that way, or
Mhm.
something like that. But um,
Mhm.
when I play a song, I mean, there's definitely songs that I enjoy playing more than others, but I think that
Mhm.
has not necessarily a lot to do with just the song, but a lot of with like
Mhm.
the guitar or
Mhm.
performing solo versus with other
Yeah.
musicians or something. Like some things just work better, and I think
Mhm.
they present better. So
Mhm. This is like the story that I wanted to tell you
okay,
because I had that happen for me when I saw you the last time, and you did Long Distance Runner.
uh huh,
And when I heard it like on the album, it felt very uplifting.
hmm,
And then when you brought it live, it felt very like stripped down and more emotional, but also because of what I was like going through at that time in my life.
hmm,
Because I think it was like the summer. Yeah. So that was like I just came out with my new name because I'm non-binary and I changed my name.
hmm,
And like only a few people knew it at that point. And I was taking like a lot of big steps in my just like my journey with being trans.
hmm.
And then I heard that song and it was just you and like acoustic guitar and the harmonica. And I was like the song transformed like right before my eyes in a way.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's really nice to hear. Yeah, thank you.
Of
Yeah.
course. Like even still now I was thinking like okay, next time I'm going to see Bill again cuz
Oh,
I
he's
will
coming. He's
have
coming
like
back over, right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like that's gonna be in October,
Mm-hmm.
and then in August I'm gonna get top surgery, like an operation
Uh-huh.
again for like gender affirming care.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like even another step that I will be taking that is like coinciding a bit with all that music, and it's sometimes I think about that,
Yeah,
and it transforms the music in a way when I listen to it.
right. Yeah, I think like having different. I mean, life and like music is a part of life in
Yeah.
your life experiences, and if you're a big music listener, it's you bring these associations and these memories with
Mm-hmm.
you, and it's it's like when you smell something and it reminds you of something from your past,
Mm-hmm.
or um there's like you have different memories of walking down a street or something, and you walk down a street like 20 years later and it looks totally different, and
Mhm.
it brings you back
Mhm.
to where you were then the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, music's it's its own thing. I've never really found anything that I think is truly like analogous to music, because it can be
Mhm.
physical, it can be solitary, it can be sedentary, it can be in a group or with strangers, it can be in a community, but it's also like it's
Mhm.
a mnemonic tool oftentimes. Like I there's some songwriters that write songs that don't rhyme. I don't know why anybody would ever want to do that. Like I think rhyming is fun, and rhyming is a way to make sense of a chaotic world. It's a
Mm.
way of ordering things, and song and the notes are a way of ordering things, and if if it's similar to anything, I mean, I'm a chess player and I play chess a lot, and
Mm.
so music and chess are very similar to me. I mean, they have different places in my life, but if I were to ever compare music to anything, it would be chess, just because it's a way. It has rules, that there's organization to it, but you can.
Mhm.
It's never the same twice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've never heard that comparison before.
Really? Yeah, I don't know.
No,
I I
never.
wish I had more friends that were chess players and musicians, but you know,
Then you should hit up my boyfriend.
oh, is he a chess player? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been trying to get me, just like he's been trying to learn chess to me, teach
Yeah.
chess to me. But I'm like,
Well, I've been
no.
trying to, I'm not trying to teach chess to Eve. She doesn't really want to learn,
Hmm.
but I mean, I wish she did, but at the same time, I'm just like, because it would be fun to be able to play chess
Hmm.
with her because,
Yeah,
we live together,
I
right?
get that.
So
I
it,
get that.
but at the same,
Maybe that's his reason also.
yeah,
Because
but at the same time, like,
I hear numbers and I'm like, no,
right,
stop
yeah,
with the
she
number.
doesn't really want to learn, and I don't want to be the person. Like chess is also like stressful, so it's like
Hmm.
I'm not going to encourage you to do something that's
Hmm.
stressful, you know.
He used to have like a really like a period of maybe like a year, half a year, where he would be on his phone all the time, and I'm like, why are you on your phone all the time? And then he's like playing chess
I'm the same way.
with like people all over the world, and
Yeah.
I'm like, but we're watching Twin Peaks. Stop.
No, I we have the same conversations. Like she's just like, we like watch some show that like has ads. It's the only way to watch.
Mm.
So like it goes to like commercial, and she's like, "You're texting somebody at 11 o'clock at night," and I'm like, "No, I'm making a chess move. I'm not crazy. I'm not a crazy person." And she's
I
like,
have
I
priorities,
think
and
playing
they're
chess at
chess."
this time of night is kind of crazy." So
Mm.
but it is stressful. It's in some ways, I think, because you're
But
activating
isn't it
part of you.
also calming?
I
Or
it's
is it, or is it, or if you play chess, is it like a very active thing because you have to think of all these moves that the other person is going to make, or is it like leisure?
I I I I wish I could describe what I thought was leisurely and not stressful. It seems, I mean, it's just like music, it's like it's something I love
Mm.
and it relaxes me, but then sometimes
Hmm.
it makes me feel bad about myself, or sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it's not always super positive. Chess is
Hmm.
the same way, it's like
Mm.
I enjoy it, but it's also like sometimes makes me feel like my brain's gonna explode.
Hmm.
You know,
I mean, I feel the same when it comes to writing
yeah.
because, like, I don't use the words writer's block anymore because
Hmm.
it's just it's part of the process.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I don't really believe in writer's block, but
Hmm.
uh, I think, I mean, at least I don't even know what it is. I mean, I know what people mean
Yeah.
by it, but it's like,
Yeah, but it's like it's different for everyone
yeah,
anyway, and everyone's process is different.
right.
But I like sometimes the words just flow out. Other times thesaurus is my best friend, and
Mhm.
other times I will not like write anything for a month.
Right. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden at 3 a.m. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. If I don't write anything for like months, I don't even view it as writer's block. I just feel like I'm
mm-hmm,
processing,
living.
or I'm saving it up, or I'm like,
Yeah, you're just
just
living
waiting for the
in the
dough to
meantime.
rise, and it's like,
Mm-hmm,
uh, it's different when you're trying to figure out what you want to share with other people, or,
mm-hmm,
if you're like I write a lot of songs that nobody hears and nobody should hear. And some of those songs might be like, I mean, if I've only got so much time on a record, or, so I'm not going to write a song that I've already written before, or like,
mm-hmm.
um, I don't view that as, and I'm trying to get to a new place, like either musically or emotionally, or what, in terms of like the literature of songs or something like, but I don't even view that as writer's block. I'm just like, what's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen, and
Yeah.
same with if I'm writing prose or something like that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, generally, I think, if I sit in a room by myself for 4 hours with a guitar or something, something's going to happen, So it's
Mm-hmm.
more about time and solitude, and than it is about, you know, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't really understand writer's block. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
the world offers so many things to write about to us, and that it's like, how do you choose? Like, is the harder,
Mm-hmm.
it's um but I mean, it's like, somebody could write a song about a caterpillar, and it could be
Mm-hmm.
a great song, or somebody could write,
Mm-hmm.
a song about something that's more existential or heavy, and that could, and it's all the same. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I became a fan when you played Texas Toad, so
thank you.
you connected the dots.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would not, I would not have been able to write a song about my pet toads when I was 20. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
would have been impossible for me to write a song like that. Um, but because I don't know, I was too serious, or I was too wrapped up in myself or something
Mm-hmm.
to, but, it's the type of song that I always enjoyed, like a
Yeah.
song, like that. I mean, I love Shel Silverstein, and that cross between, like, the world of children's music and the adult world, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, things that are nursery rhymey, but also kind of literary. And um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I love songs that are silly without
Mm-hmm.
being necessarily poignant, or without trying to,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I love humor in music. I don't really like joke rock necessarily, but
Mm-hmm.
I like songs that are funny, you know. Yeah. Thanks for liking my Toad song. So.
Of course. Do you still have any?
No, uh, they've gone to that.
Rest in peace.
Yes, yes, rest in peace, Hoyts. And I they're actually kind of a lot of work to keep toads, actually.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I
I have
decided
no
not to
idea
get any more. So
what care they need actually.
yeah, and
Like feeding them bugs and all that.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time, like, driving to the pet store to get bugs because I couldn't
Oh.
find any, or in my yard,
Mm-hmm.
or you know
You actually went in your backyard scouting for bugs.
yeah, for sure. Like, I mean,
Oh my god.
we have a big yard, and so I barehanding grasshoppers and throwing them in there, or catching potato
Damn.
bugs, which are pretty easy to catch, but it has to have rained recently, or and but really, like, the crickets you get at the pet store, it's the cricket,
Mm-hmm.
it's real industry, the cricket industry. Like, it's really bizarre. Like, all the crickets come from, like, a couple cricket farms in the U.S. and all
Oh,
these pet
okay.
stores, and it's like, you have to be very careful how you raise and transport the crickets so they don't get contaminated, and it's a it's a big business. Anyways, it's like, so,
Damn.
uh, but and it's not. They're
It's like
not.
with ants.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I made the mistake of, like, when I first got the toads, of, like, catching ants and putting them in there, and then, of course,
Mm.
I wasn't thinking the ants escaped, and they got all over everything.
Oh my
It's just
god.
like, it was a
Yeah.
mess. So then I was like, I better just stick to crickets.
Um, I wanted to also ask a bit about your inspiration, like where it comes from, but I wanted to mainly ask, in what way does living in Texas influence your music? Because I've never been there. I don't know that much about the culture.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a lot of country
Yeah.
music, but for me, it's again like this mythological thing,
Mm-hmm.
place in a
Yeah.
way.
Right.
because most of the music that I do listen to is from the past.
Yes.
So that's why I wanted to ask that question in particular.
Well, so I'm not a Texan,
Yeah.
but I always, like so many people, like what you're saying, mythologize Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in the Midwest, like Texas was like the idea of going to Texas. Growing up in Ohio is like, yeah, it was like going to Mars or something. And we
Mm.
didn't travel
Okay.
as a kid, so um, we like I didn't go to Texas until I was like 21 and graduated from college, and I got in a van and was selling T-shirts for a punk band. Uh, and even then, the Texas that I saw were the cities, um,
Mm-hmm.
and in Austin, Dallas, Houston, and then in all my years of touring before I moved here, I never played in San Antonio, and I wasn't playing the type of music to get booked in the hill country area, which is where I live now. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really where a lot of the music comes from. Like the music that people, I mean, Austin now is, and Austin's still a great city, but it has more in common with probably like Seattle or New York or it's like it's a
Mm.
tech town. It's
Okay.
not, it's it's a very big city. It's a very expensive city. It's not what it obviously was, like no places, in the 70s. But um, the hill country is where I am is very much like it's still changing too because so many people are moving here and it's just getting more developed. Um, and it's lost a lot of its romance, I think, in the 10
Mm.
or 12 years I've lived here, just from
Mm-hmm.
population growth and building and, everything else. But, um, the cities, always had like more, like Houston had lots of jazz and R&B, and Houston still has like, uh, there's a lot of great rap music that's come from Houston. And where I am is in San Antonio's got Tejano music and conjunto music, and that's still very much alive and vibrant. Yeah, so for me, and I think this is true for like a lot of people when you go somewhere new. Um, like when we moved down here, I would go get tacos and I would see real cowboys. Like I would see like old guys with
Mm-hmm.
that were cowboys, and every once in a while they had spurs on and like
Yeah,
leather chaps.
that's amazing.
I mean, and that's because we're in the hill country. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
probably would not see that in Austin. And so it was like, to me, I think moving somewhere that's very different from what you're used to is always going to be inspiring in some way because
Mm-hmm.
everything and everybody is a peacock. And you're like, "Oh, look, a peacock, look, a peacock." And now, like 10 or 12 years later, I'm like, oh, there's a peacock. It's like, it's not impactful
Mm-hmm.
in the same way anymore, because it's not new. Um, and the newness, like the record I made called Time the Teacher, uh, was the record that I wrote when we first moved here.
Mm, okay.
And when I play one of those songs, I remember the newness of moving to
Mm-hmm.
Texas because it was very, very exciting. I mean, I would
Mm-hmm.
love to experience that again someday. Like the sort of innocence of it, the excitement of it. It felt like sort of a rebirth to me in many ways. It was something that Eve and I did together. So it was like a symbol of our relationship moving in a new direction as we literally moved into a new direction together. Um, and a lot of the people that I loved in Texas music were still alive. Like, you know, Billy Joe Shaver was still alive. And like in Billy Joe Shaver is like one of my all time. I mean, we're both straight white men and we could not be more different from another. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
Billy Joe Shaver is just like, was just like from another place and time. Probably when he was born, he was from another place and time, you know? And now that he's gone and you know Jerry Jeff Walker's gone and you know all these sort of songwriters and even people that didn't still live in Texas that I loved are like Chris Christopherson and you know Joe Ely, these guys that are like to me were Texas, you know. um they're no longer here, and so it feels to me like a different place
Mm-hmm.
than it used to, but it definitely living the other part is like we live somewhere rural, and
Mm-hmm.
I had never lived somewhere rural before, and I was very used to having lots of friends and a community of people and hanging out with people all the time. And now I spend a great deal of time alone,
Mm-hmm.
and that's good in a lot of ways. I mean, but even I are very isolated, but that in and of itself is like its own inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you it forces you to do other things with your time than just hang out with people, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
which is neither good nor bad. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, I think it's important to try to find a balance of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But um, so I think that's kind of how it's influenced me. I mean, I living somewhere quiet is like an influence. Like there's no traffic where we live because we're on a gravel
Mm-hmm.
road, you know, and we used to live somewhere like in Ohio where we'd hear ambulances 15 times a day, you
Ah,
know.
yeah.
It was very loud where we lived. And so just living somewhere quiet and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, instead of having, you know, 500 people I knew outside my front door, like
Mm-hmm.
where I used to live, now I've just got like a couple feral cats, you know, and, you know, so I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all those things combined are really, you know, they influence you, and so
Mm-hmm.
then you know it's what you make of that
Mm-hmm.
is inspiration, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm just taking it all in.
Yeah, that's okay, that's okay.
This kind of ties into Good Ghost a little bit because you're talking about all these other musicians that aren't there anymore.
Right.
Because that song is about your heroes that aren't there anymore.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get into that and just ask like who these heroes are, what they mean to you, if there's like a specific person that comes to mind, maybe someone you used to work with.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't, I didn't realize this when I was younger, but I realize it now. I think a lot of times when you're, you know, why was I drawn to so many older singer songwriters at a young age? And I think it was because I was, you know, whether it's like looking for some sort of father figure or some sort of guidance, or, you know, I definitely like looking towards, I like songwriters where it was like I was like looking for something. I was
Mm-hmm.
looking to, and it wasn't that I self identified with them because they didn't have much in common with me, but I was looking to learn something, I think. And so some of those people I got to work with, like Larry John Wilson, Bob Martin, Michael Hurley, I didn't really work with, but I played shows with, and I knew Michael for a couple decades.
Mm-hmm.
Ed Askew, um, you know, Michael passed right before the record came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was already made, but and Ed passed a few months before that. Um, but you know, it's like my record collection when I had those records. You know, I mean, a lot of those people were still with us. I mean, I've had a lot of those records for 20, 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I mentioned Fred Neil in the song, who was gone by the time, you know, I, I probably, I can't remember what year Fred passed away, but I think Fred was definitely still alive when I was listening to his music, but I never met him, but um, at one point in time, like in this kind of, at one point in time, like maybe it was 2006, 2007, I drove around the country interviewing obscure singer songwriters, and I was going to write a book about it. Um, and so that's how I met some of them. And that book never came out, obviously, because every publisher in the world that I talked to was like, who would ever read a book about a bunch of people nobody's ever heard of before? Right, you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I think a lot of people would, right? I mean, I'm I'm probably wrong about that because I'm wrong about most things. I think it's a form of my optimism. I think is that I actually believe people are going to be interested in interesting people, but it's like, do we really need another book about Bob Dylan or the Beatles or something? But they keep selling, and books about people nobody's heard about don't sell. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how people make decisions in the world. But
Mm-hmm.
so so I guess I say that because I've always been very committed to voices that were not in the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I also like Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard and Bruce Springsteen and people that are very famous. But primarily I'm interested in these people that are doing something very artistic that I think is also accessible. And, so with the song Good Ghost, I mean, it definitely changed it changed in the way that I feel about that song when I wrote it versus now when I play it, because it was primarily, when I wrote it, it was primarily about people that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And during the time that I was mixing it and releasing it, Ed Askew left and Michael Hurley passed. And because I knew them, it it became to me in my mind more about them than strangers. But it
Mm-hmm.
was also like about my old blues records and my
Mm-hmm.
old folk records and like like in the song it's like I've got a line about how it's like mostly black and white men, and that's who it was, because that's what I you know primarily would listen to for whatever reason when I was younger. I mean, I was clearly like it was some search for identity, for me, was trying to figure out who I was, like, and I'm like, what are my choices? Who could I become? You know, and trying to figure out like, and that's becoming a person. It's becoming
Mm-hmm.
an artist. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is trying to find your own voice as a person, find your own voice as somebody that makes things. But I like that song because it is about me sitting in my living room in front of the
Mm-hmm.
fireplace and drinking
Mm-hmm.
wine, and so
And it's just so relatable as a
yeah,
listener.
thanks. I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I
Because
mean,
I
I
like you think of specific people and I think of specific people, but at the end of the
right.
day we are thinking along the same lines. And I think
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
yeah, I do too. I mean, um, I some songwriters I think chase that. They intentionally want to. It maybe not just songwriters, but people want to make something that can relate to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they go into it more intentionally in
Yeah.
that direction.
Like with a certain goal in mind, maybe.
Yeah, I've never been that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make what I make,
Mm-hmm.
and you know maybe people will connect to it, maybe they
Mm-hmm.
won't. It's like I don't. I'm just not wired to be more deliberate about it. To me, that feels like chasing your own tail or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But,
Yeah, I mean, you don't have
but
to be. I think that's what I like so much about your music is because it's literally what you say. Like you write it mainly for yourself, and people like me, we can listen to it and find our own meaning in it.
right, yeah, I hope so. Thank you. Yeah.
You've been calling for a long time, so I'm gonna see
Okay.
what question I still want to ask.
Okay.
Like I always over prepare just in case. um, I mean, I do feel like this is very relevant today with like streaming services and whatnot. And I
Uh-huh.
know you have like a massive collection, like a vinyl collection and whatnot, because
Yeah,
you post about it
I do.
sometimes. So I wanted to ask, like, how do you consume music?
Hmm.
And do you ever think about how you want other people to consume your music? Not necessarily in like the way they listen to it, if it's like streaming or physical
Right.
or whatnot, but also the way they interpret it, maybe.
Hmm.
You can go like
Yeah.
both ways
I
with that
mean,
question.
right. I mean, I think about all that stuff, and I don't think about it. I try not to think about it in a way that, and I don't think about it in a way that's like judgmental.
Hmm.
You know, um, I yeah. There's a lot to say there. I mean, I think that streaming services favor music that is immediate.
Hmm.
Um, but I also think that that's not specific to music. I think the modern world favors things that are immediate. Um, and so that to me is more about understanding music consumption as like part of the tech world and not necessarily part of the music world,
Hmm.
and um, that people need to make their own choices about that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I know that I would not love most of the music that I deeply love if I had been able to swipe right
Hmm.
after 30 seconds.
Hmm. Hmm.
I know that's true about me. And again, it's not a judgment on other people's taste or anything like that. It's
Hmm.
just I I like albums. I
Yeah.
like, and that's not like I think vinyl is better, although I do. It's not based on that. It's really because that is the trip that
Hmm.
I prefer. You know, I mean, I like hearing like a single on the radio. Like I like a catchy song and all that stuff, but I prefer a 40-minute journey.
Hmm.
That's my preference.
Hmm.
And I like CDs and I like cassette tapes, but I really like sitting down for 17 to 20 minutes and then
Hmm.
having to physically stand up and flip it over and sit back down.
Hmm.
I just like it.
Hmm.
Like I like the whole process. I like
Hmm.
the album art. I like doing something with my hands, flipping
Hmm.
the record. I like sitting down. I think that's a good time to get a refill when
Hmm.
you get back to flip the record. Uh, I think it's fun.
It is.
And like I think that my biggest issue with streaming, though I recognize many, many problems with the economics of it,
Hmm.
because you know like people, most people have like, or some sort of like TV watching subscription, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
if you've got Netflix and you're paying $20 a month for Netflix or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get the history of the world's cinema and television for
Mm-hmm.
$20,
That's true.
right? You get like a couple thousand movies, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's like, and they're usually not ones you wanted to see. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, people end up, it's like, oh, it's like I'm going to watch another John Cusack movie that I never heard of or something, you know, and it's like, so, and people are fine with that. Like people
Mm-hmm.
pay $20 to net. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
were to like come up with an equation of, you know, what would Netflix cost you if you had access to every film in the history of the
Oh my
world like you
god.
do for music, Netflix would cost you like, you know, $3,000 a month. Well,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to spend $3,000 a month on Netflix, and nobody's going to spend $3,000 a month on streaming services, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So, anyways, this those kind of things are they're problematic, but they're not problematic as much to me because it's like I'm a musician and I'm not getting paid enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's more problematic to me because it bothers me culturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it
Because
very much so influences the way you consume music. Because like the other,
yes,
like in my previous job, I could like put on like my own music, albeit with a streaming
hmm
service, on like my little like Bluetooth box instead of the radio, because I literally like curated a playlist with like a bunch of albums that I really like, and then
hmm
and then my coworker was like, "You listen to this band a lot," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, the entire album is in there." And she was like, "You listen to entire albums?" And I'm
yeah,
like, "Well,
yeah, it's
yeah."
very weird. I mean, and again, I try not to be judgmental about it because it's
Hmm.
just my personal taste. I
Yeah,
just like
but I do
records. I just
notice
like.
that with a lot of people my age, as you say, it has to happen fast. People
hmm
don't, unless they're like into music, people don't really sit
Right.
down to discover and listen to music, which is so unfortunate.
I don't think it's people. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I don't think it's people
24.
your age. I think okay, okay. Well, I think it's like I think it's totally everybody's like
Yeah,
that
true. My
now.
parents were like that as well.
You know, I mean, um, and I don't think that's necessarily bad. I
No,
mean, like,
no.
but it's I mean, I was always somebody that like if I liked one record, then I
Hmm.
wanted to hear every record ever made by that person,
Yeah,
you
I'm the
know.
same.
And I know, and yeah, most people aren't like that, you know.
Hmm.
And so,
I'm
like,
the same with like movies, because
yeah,
I will watch all those John Cusack movies, but because I want to, not because Netflix,
right,
not because Netflix forced me to.
right. It's because you have no other options. You're like,
The
so
thing is, we have like too many options, and that's what gets me
well, that's it
sometimes.
too. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing with streaming is like, you
Hmm.
know, I'm not, you know, the record bins are not flexible like in a record store. Like you have there's finite space, right? So then with streaming, I'm competing with the history of the world's music. You know, it's like, well, it's like all of a sudden, like I'm like my record's competing with like a Leonard Cohen record from 1970. You know, like you're competing with everybody, and even in the record bins, with everything getting repressed, you know,
Hmm.
you're competing with the history of the world's music. So the only thing for me is like I um I I've never, and this is going to make me sound like the oldest person in the world, but I've never fallen in love with a record digitally. I've heard stuff like on my phone or on YouTube or something like that that I've been like, I'm going to buy that,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never fallen in love with it as a digital thing. And even before streaming, like I never downloaded music with iTunes or something, and that was never about like me being against it. It was like I worked in a record store, so I didn't need to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I worked in a record store for 20 years or something, I think, and or close to that, I guess. I don't know, but So I would, I had access to hearing everything all the time. So when people were like getting into file sharing and record stores were kind of fading away
Mm-hmm.
before, the vinyl resurgence or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
kept a few of them afloat. But I understood that people wanted to hear everything, and they were like illegally downloading and, yeah, that was bad, but it's like I got to hear everything because it was my job. So I understood that want of that. But, I mean, people now they complain like, oh, it's so expensive to buy a new record. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, $30 is not nothing. Like $30 is like real money. But people drop $30 for a cheeseburger, And so like a record is something that you can revisit and
Mm-hmm.
you can enjoy over and over again. And I buy books, but it's pretty rare that I read a book more than once, and I don't ever hear people complaining about the price of books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People spend money going out to movies
Mm-hmm.
but but for some reason people complain about the price of a record. I mean, and again, I don't think everybody should have a record player. Like, it's like if you live in an apartment in a big city, like you don't have room for that kind of stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. I mean, people always used to, but so I don't know. I mean, I think it's a complicated system.
It is.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy for people to hear my music and enjoy it any way they can. You know,
I mean, if you
um,
didn't come over to Europe, I don't know if I could even buy like a physical record
right, right,
because I'm in Europe,
yeah,
for
yeah.
example.
I mean, some of my stuff is distributed over there. Some of it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's the nature. I mean, international shipping charges. Like, I've
Yeah.
tried to discontinue it on my Bandcamp page, and I can't because I feel bad when people buy them, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's like somebody wrote me like last week they bought a copy of my record and they're like, man, Jerry, like $25 for international shipping's a lot. And I wrote back and I go, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but it's actually
Mm-hmm.
$32 and I'm going to eat that $7. Like, I just felt bad about charging more for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so expensive. And, some people's stuff you can get overseas and some people you can't.
Mm-hmm.
My stuff, you know, I made a record that was you could get in the UK, but you couldn't get here in America
Oh,
before. So
okay.
I mean, it's yeah. So the digital thing and streaming, it is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, yeah, it is complicated. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people thought that the internet
Definitely.
was gonna democratize everything, and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really do that.
That's true.
Or maybe it did, and we got what we asked for, but it's you know s- streaming's the same way. It's cool to think that somebody like you can live across the world and hear my music. That's an amazing thing. So I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
sound anti-technology, but
No,
I'm not
you
sure
don't
if like,
sound
yeah,
anti-technology at all. I think you really show like the nuance in everything.
yeah,
You just
yeah, it's complicated. I mean,
does
I
that
don't think that
sentence make sense?
yeah, no, that's totally makes sense. Yeah. um I mean, those things are never going to be perfect, and people like what they like,
Mm-hmm.
and some things become more popular, and
Mm-hmm.
some don't. I mean, uh, so I don't know. I mean, I try not. I don't really have any sort of like any bitterness or animosity towards. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
my main thing is that I think a lot of like, uh, it's like, is it boring or is it not boring?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm happy for people to hear my music, but I know for sure that if they had a cassette deck or a CD player or a record player and they had my music on their phone or they had like a physical product, I I truly believed that the physical product would bring them more joy.
Mm-hmm.